We've just seen Liverpool 1 PSV 4. Liverpool now officially in one of the worst runs of form they've had since, well, the worst run of form they've had since the 1950s. Was it 9 defeats now, I think, in 12 games. It's a really, really tough night for Liverpool. It's a really, really tough night for the players, the fans, the manager. I'm Ste Errol, Ste Errol, like I mentioned before. We're gonna have to have the conversation now about the manager, right? And my initial thoughts are, I feel like a lot around him has let him down as well. But then all the players aren't going to leave him once. If they're going to make a change, because something has to change, it will ultimately be the manager here, who I think ends up losing his job. And I think that's on the table now. And unfortunately, I can't believe it, mate, that it's November 26th. It's a few months ago that I was, end of May, when I was outside Anfield. We were outside Anfield celebrating on each other's shoulders, party time. One of the best days we've ever had. We had the streaming here. We drove down to Anfield. It was glorious. And a few months later, now we're sat here saying there's every chance the manager's going to lose his job. And I think we have to ask that question, don't we? I think it's the only thing at this moment in time. It's the only thing that can change. The players aren't going to change. You can do a couple of tweaks here and there. There's some decisions that can be made, but ultimately, it does feel like that's where we're heading. The manager's in massive trouble here. And listen, if you said to me there'll be someone else on the dugout on Sunday now, I don't think I would be shocked. And I haven't said that this whole run. I've always said, Liverpool won't do that. Things will turn around. They'll back him. They know there's been issues all summer. There's been things that have gone wrong. But at this point in time, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I said the other day to a couple of the lads that I think it has to get worse before it gets better. And that literally sums up it starting to feel like it's getting worse already. The very next game, there's not even like a little bit of a steadying of the ship and a bit of a stop the rot. And look, we did a little plug before we went live today, throw it out on the socials, letting people know to come and watch us over on YouTube. And after we had sent it over to get pushed out, I said, look, I'm dressed in all black today because I'm ready for the funeral. You know what I mean? Like, again, all of those PTSD moments and all the callbacks to when it just, the arse seems to fall out of it, was just at the forefront of my mind, that this, nothing to a foregone conclusion that Liverpool are going to do the job that we need them to do, that's required of them at this particular moment in time. And I've been one that for some time already this season has accepted that the Premier League is probably beyond our reach in terms of being able to retain it. It's an incredibly difficult job to do. Not that many sides have been able to do it throughout the course of the Premier League, but the way that Liverpool spent the money in the summer, we was almost tipped as if, we was definitely going to be favourites to go again. But I was resigned to the fact that we may need to look within the Champions League this season as a little bit of a solace and as a little bit of a release for us in terms of our Premier League form not being at the level required, and hopefully that enables us to get the foundations and have plenty to play for coming the new year. And all of a sudden that is now in jeopardy and that hangs in the balance. Look, it's going to be incredibly difficult to get that automatic guaranteed spot into the playoffs now. We might have to go into the knockout. We may have to go into a playoff round, which then just increases additional games, means there'll be probably more games where Salah won't be able to feature as well as a result, because it might happen at the time that AFCON takes place as well. So at this moment in time, when you specifically look at the manager, again, if tonight's game was in isolation, I'd say no, the manager's fine, not necessarily fine, but the manager's position can't really be looked at because there's extenuating circumstances that are far beyond his realms of control. He can't mitigate for Virgil van Dijk's handball, which is just a bad error on his part, which is very uncharacteristic of Virgil van Dijk, but at the same time it just digs us into a little bit of a hole. Liverpool respond, but then you can't again legislate for Ibu Konate, just air ball, just kicking thin air and not getting any contact on the ball. And how many times have we said individual mistakes at this moment in time are killing Liverpool? And when you've only got those players to rely on and they've got that in their system, it makes it increasingly difficult to really build any foundation. And then you do have to look at the manager and say, well, look, ultimately, all things considered, you can't do wholesale changes in the middle of a season with your playing staff. The only person that you can do a little bit of a wholesale change is your manager and his backroom staff, and whether you need to go and get interims in or there's somebody else that's waiting in the wing potentially to step in on a permanent basis, I don't know. And this is where I've more than ever really wanted to avoid the whole discourse around Slot being in or out, because it's never been cut and dry for me, and it's never been like, okay, if Slot goes, X, Y, and Z are the options to bring in, which then gives us the chance to do X, Y, and Z in terms of the playing style, the formation, work with the players that we've got. There's not been a very clear outward option that kind of you're moving into safe hands at least, or anything like that. Nothing seemed really, to me, nothing seemed appealing as a reason to. There's not been like, okay, we need to strike while the iron's hot, that manager's available at this moment in time, or we could do this as a little bit of a stopgap. But at this moment in time, I don't even think we're going to need that level of excuse. We might just need to just stop the rot and just, kill this, whatever it is, at source. And at the moment, that source, it revolves around Arne Slot. And I'm gutted, mate. I don't get any pleasure out of saying that, and I really, really don't. I get no pleasure out of being in this position right here, saying that I don't think the manager can continue in his job at this moment in time. But I don't think he can. I struggle to see how he can, because the one place where he had a little bit of a lifeline, he's absolutely just hamstrung the team and left us with a massive mountain to climb now. We've got 2 massive away games, and then we've got a Carabao team that are going to come to us, or Carabao team that are going to come to us, the last game of the table format, with the bit between the teeth, wanting to spoil the party. And it doesn't take much to spoil Liverpool's party at the moment, because they are frail. They are absolutely frail at the minute in terms of their mentality. When anything's going against them, they just can't seem to get themselves up. They've got no fire left in the belly. They've got no desire, no fight. And it almost does feel as if they can't find the drive to play for this manager and execute. And whether that is down to him not necessarily being, what we mentioned before, a bit more endearing to the players or to the fan base, and to be charismatic and that type of personality profile. I don't know if it's just that or it is just his tactics, but something is seriously wrong with Liverpool Football Club at the moment in a way that I have not seen for a number of years. And again, people go back to Brendan Rodgers, people go back to Roy Hodgson. It's up there at this moment in time. And if you take away what he did in terms of winning the league last season, I don't think there's any other justifiable reason to keep him in post at this moment in time. And I'm gutted, genuinely I'm gutted, because I think he's a nice enough man. I think he's had the unprecedented 18 months as a Liverpool manager. I think he had a big shoes to fill in taking over from Jurgen Klopp. I think he handled it incredibly. You've got to commend him for that. But at this moment in time, he looks lost. He doesn't even look like he's a championship level manager at the minute. He looks completely out of his depth.
I feel gutted for Ste Errol. I feel sorry for him, because I think a lot of his senior players are letting him down. So if you look at the goals, for example, the first goal is captain plays volleyball in the box in 5 minutes. The second goal, I think I'm right in saying, is that the Kanate one?
No.
The second one, Mo Salah, it is, but Mo Salah on the halfway line just doesn't put a challenge in. Yeah. A lad just lets him run by him. Kirkez's positioning could be questioned for that one as well, but I think Salah not even trying to challenge for the ball. Third one, Kanate, mate. But then I go back to him and go, all these players aren't going, they're not going. So it's going to have to fall to him. And then the question is, are they not playing for him? And at times, right, they scored early and I thought we responded really well. And if you'd have said to me at half-time, someone's going to win this game 4-1, I thought it'd probably be us, because I thought we were on top and we were all over the medal. But second half, after an initial bright start for a few minutes, Liverpool were just like a different team. And this is where, unfortunately, the book, and ultimately you're the manager, so the book will always stop with you. But the team looked devoid of ideas. They looked devoid of knowing what they're meant to be doing, the positions. I think individual errors killing us at the back, but the lack of cohesiveness in attack. And like I say, I feel really, 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 really sorry for them. But the players aren't. I go back to the players aren't going to change. The only thing that can change is the manager. And nothing would please me more than Liverpool going on a run of 10 games on the spin, fighting for the fella, proving that they've got him and he can change this.
They've got his back a little bit, yeah.
I can't. If you ask me now what's going to happen on Sunday, I say Liverpool are going to lose. Yeah. And if you ask me what's going to happen next midweek, I'll probably say Liverpool are going to lose. Yeah. And that can't continue.
No,
it's devastating. That's where we're at.
2 things on that. I said, what would I have changed or what would I have wanted? I said I needed that second goal. There was a point in that first half where PSV, by the way, we ended up making them look like PSG in the end. To be fair to them, you give them a little bit of credit, but I think Liverpool played into their hands massively. But I said, there's momentum in this first half of Liverpool here, and we've got them under the cosh. They're under a little bit of pressure. They're struggling to play out from the back. They haven't got an out ball. It's not sticking, and we're sustaining attacks. But it's in those moments where you need to smell blood and you need to go for the jugular and you need to be ruthless again. Liverpool have lost that ruthless streak within this side that puts teams to the sword. And ultimately, going into that second half, 1-1, I just felt more nervous because I felt like I've seen this story before. Liverpool can do well, put in good 30-minute performances, put in a good half of a performance. But as soon as something goes against us, how do we respond? And do we have another... can we go to the well again in the same game and dig ourselves out of a position and a situation if we go behind? And then the second thing to that is I can't fathom for me why we seem to be so weak mentally at this moment in time that when the situation does go bad, and I also said that not only is it going bad, we did look all right for 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the second half. But all of a sudden, PSV had this energy about them, and he looked fresh and he looked fitter. And I don't know whether that's a team thing again, of the team just looking tired, or they're just drained at the moment, whether that's physically and mentally, they're just drained. But all of a sudden, they looked like, not necessarily like they was sustaining attacks and wave after wave, but the way that they was just playing the ball, incisive passes, they was just popping it around us a little bit, and all of a sudden, they got the tails back up. And this is, again, a team sitting top of their league, high on confidence, on a good run of games, good run of wins under the belt. They're not going to crumble because they can see the goal. And their goalkeeper parried it and just put it on a plate for Szoboszlai. But they didn't deviate from their plan. They went again in the second half. They got the energy back up. They got the levels back to where they wanted to be. They found that little bit of quality. And when they needed to be ruthless, they was absolutely ruthless. And they didn't give a fuck about how poor Liverpool's form have been and unlucky Liverpool. They just went, nah, we're just going to beat the team that's in front of us. And if you aren't up for the challenge, lads, then that's on you. We've got no sympathy for you. And that's the way football should be. And Liverpool had their moments and had their chance to do that. We could have been 2-3-1 up at half-time, and we're sitting here. And we're not even sitting here on this show. We're sitting there doing player rankings, and we're starting to commend some of these players for putting in a good 90-minute performance. But once again, they haven't got the mentality. They haven't got the resolve. And they haven't got the belief and the dedication and the desire to just put it in for the fans. And I said it before, and this is where my sympathy ultimately goes, is the fans.
That was a clip from our Redmen React show. If you want to check it out in full, simply head to redmenplus.com.